Boker Tov, everyone from Jerusalem. Welcome to our first webinar in a series of gatherings on progressive Zionism. I want to first welcome our chair, Phyllis Dory, to address us.
Lovely to see so many friends on my screen. I'm sure there are others on other screens. And I guess we are daring to hope and rejoice in the return of the hostages over the weekend. And at the same time, our hearts are breaking because those are still in captivity, for who are still in captivity or unfortunately lost to us all. So we keep our fingers crossed and our prayers in our hearts. This webinar we are dedicating to the memory of Dr. Michael Livni. And for those of you who know me, I've just moved apartments, and so I've been doing a lot of clearing out. But a couple of days ago, I found this book when I was going through my cupboard. And it said, "To Phyllis, with best wishes, in the hope that this will strengthen your Reform Zionist commitment even further." I hope Michael would be proud that I have taken this just one or two steps further in my own personal journey. Unfortunately, we are facing situations around the world, and if you've been watching the news, and even more unfortunately, in the countries around the world, and because I'm in Australia, I'm feeling it in Australia as well, where we're being accused in the guise of anti-Semitism of people are using anti-Zionism as a slogan rather than what they really mean, which is anti-Semitism. There's a total lack of understanding about what it is to be a Zionist. And unfortunately, there is some confusion in a number of people's mind about what it is to be a progressive or a reform Zionist, hence this webinar today. And it's the start of a conversation we hope to be able to keep going with all of you over the next little while. This is the first of 4, but this doesn't have to be the only venue in which we have the discussion. And I hope, as Rabbi Blank says, this will prompt other discussions, other questions, other opportunities for us to share and strengthen our own knowledge and understanding of what it means to be a Zionist and what it means to be a progressive Zionist, not just historically, but also moving forward. So I welcome you all to this session. And Stacey, I hand back to you and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, for really setting the path forward for what we want to do today.
To invite the president of the WPJ, Rabbi Sergio Bergman, to share with us some opening words.
Thank you, Rabbi Stacy, and welcome everyone. This is for us one of the more important challenges to be together and to discuss this global commitment like progressive reform liberal issues worldwide, how we address the challenging time to redefine and to build again our link and commitment with the State of Israel and the vision of the State of Israel that in the reform movement became our Zionist progressive approach. Also in this forum, we are honoring the blessed memory of Michael Livni, one of the pioneers in our movement to really bring out about this approach and the thought and the implications. And of course, our beloved Rabbi Dick Hirsch, that make the important move to bring to Jerusalem the headquarters of the World Union for Progressive Judaism. In this special year that we are addressing and facing in our next international conference, Connections 25, the first centennial, the first 100 years of the World Union, and more than 50 years that the World Union is based in Jerusalem. And the idea is, after the challenging things that we go through in the pogrom of Simchat Torah last October 7, 23, we are sure that the interaction, the dialogue in this global forum will be very, very useful to build our commitment to the State of Israel despite any government that is really leading and running our beloved country. Now, our commitment is with Megillat Ha'atzmaut and the values of the vision of the prophetic message of Israel are now in our hands. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm really excited to listen and to be part of this global partnership.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Sergio. So we are going to open in a quote from Dr. Michael Livni, which in a moment you should see on your screen. Dr. Michael Livni of blessed memory wrote, "Reform Zionism implies a certain vision in regard to the nature of the Jewish state, the diaspora, and the relationship between them. Any Zionist vision must be rooted in a rationale relating to general and Jewish history and Jewish values. Ultimately, the question is, what is the creative significance and purpose of Jewish peoplehood in our times?" Anyone who ever came into contact with the inimitable Dr. Michael Livni always was treated to a proper ideological discussion and was sent away with a pile of reading material on Zionism. He was the ultimate educator and ideologue. Livni made Aliyah to Kibbutz Gesher Aziv in the Western Galilee in 1963. He worked as a teacher, as an educational coordinator, a treasurer, and an agriculturalist. He served as the first shaliach to the Reform movement in America. He went on to serve as coordinator for the Israeli Reform Youth Movement, what was then known as Sofei Telem, and he was the Director General of the World Zionist Organization's Department of Jewish Education and Culture. And when he eventually made his home in Kibbutz Lotan, helped found and organize many of the ecological projects there. He had published numerous articles, both in Hebrew and in English, dealing with aspects of kibbutz life and education, Jewish Zionist education, eco-Zionism, questions of religion and state in Israel, and the interface between Reform Judaism and Zionism. Livni also wrote, in our next slide, you can see the quote, "An adequate Reform Zionist rationale must accomplish a double task. Firstly, it must relate to the existential problems of Reform Judaism and effect of the larger Jewish community. Secondly, Reform Zionism must define an approach to Jewish peoplehood, including Jewish purpose, which relates to current political and social reality in the Jewish world, including Israel. We pray that we honor Livni's vision and pedagogy by carrying on his tradition of discussion and intellectual engagement in our highest values for the sake of Israel and for the sake of Tikkun Olam." This discussion today is the first in a series of 4 webinars about progressive Zionism. The goal of this first gathering is to work together in formulating a definition of progressive Zionism and its core values that is clear, easy to articulate, and can be useful in your discussions in your home, in your communities, and in wider forums. Our overarching goal is to create a shared language that can be useful to all of us, and of course, translated into other languages and useful in those as well. The second webinar will present a panel representing diverse perspectives reflecting on progressive Zionism. And through that, we will also consider how we can empower and facilitate respectful debate about Israel and progressive Zionism in each of our own settings. The third webinar will collect many of the difficult claims that we encounter from within the Jewish community and from outside of our communities, and suggest and discuss together what can be our responses. In the fourth webinar, we will delve into channels of activism based on progressive Zionism. And from there will come the discussion about the conflation of the personal and the political, if we can even separate the two. What we are presenting here today in our definition of progressive Zionism, our suggested definition, our working draft, this is not being presented as an ideology. It is not a political stance. It is not a position paper. is not a statement of values of this organization called the World Union for Progressive Judaism. What is being presented here is a value statement, a definition of progressive Zionism as a value of people who identify as progressive Jews. And when I say progressive, I mean with a big P, representing a Jewish movement. And I could replace that with Reform Zionism or liberal, big L, Zionism. Our goal is to create together a definition of progressive Zionism that can fit as many of us as possible within it. So we really appreciate the thoughtful questions that you shared when you registered, those of you who shared in anticipation of this webinar. And of the questions that we received, I hope that today we can address the following questions that were raised. Are often mixed feelings, the relationship between Israel and the diaspora, the goal of our Zionism, how we can explain progressive Zionism to Jews and non-Jews, how to define progressive Zionism and lower hostility, how to affirm Israel's need for security while affirming human rights of all people, a step in amplifying our voices for progressive Zionism, and the role of peace. A number of people in the registration asked questions related to operative actions, and we will save those questions for further webinars. For example, questions like how to deal with anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, how to dialogue across generations, how to advocate for our values and political positions, how to manage difficult conversations within communities and across communities. So for example, also a question that somebody asked, how to balance human rights with the need to eliminate Hamas. They're asking an operative question. The answer to that question would be a position paper on that specific topic. And I would hope that that paper would reference the statement of progressive Zionism that we're going to look at today as a basis for formulating an opinion on that topic. So that is our task at hand today. And go back. So we are going to share this document in the chat. We're going to attach it as a Word file for you to discuss in your breakout groups in a bit. But first, we'll read through it together. A definition of progressive, go back. A definition of progressive Zionism and its core values. Knowing that throughout history, between periods of prosperity and peace, Jews have been persecuted and treated as second-class citizens scattered among the nations, most recently experiencing the depths of anti-Semitism in the attempt at complete extermination in the Shoah. And two, the Jewish people has a relationship with the land of Israel over thousands of generations, from the Torah narrative of our founding ancestors in the land, the settlement of the Israelite tribes, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, brief exile, return with limited rule under regional powers, and then 2,000 years of exile, maintaining communities with connections to one another worldwide that always looked toward Zion in prayers, with various attempts of settlement in the land over the generations. Progressive Judaism responds to the challenges of modernity, rejecting the beliefs that Jews passively await redemption and that Jewish action is wholly dictated by halakha, Jewish law. Progressive Zionism advances the self-determination of the Jewish people and the belief in our agency, responsibility, and creativity in shaping Jewish society in our ancestral land. Progressive Zionism affirms the Jewish value of Ahavat Israel, love of Israel, the love of the land of Israel, the state of Israel, the citizens of Israel, and the entire Jewish people. This love provides a firm basis on which all Jews around the world can support and encourage Israel, as well as offer critical examination and initiatives for its improvement. Progressive Zionism works to bring progressive Judaism to Israeli society, informed by values such as gender equality, pluralism, security, pursuit of peace, and social justice for all, regardless of religion, race, or ethnicity. Progressive Zionists support and collaborate with the Israel Movement for Progressive Judaism and other like-minded individuals and organizations in Israel. Progressive Zionism believes that Jewish identity in Israel and around the world is intertwined with the reality of the existence of the State of Israel. And the state of Israel's existence depends upon its relationship to every Jew in Israel and around the world. And state refers to Israel as a self-governing political entity and not to any current ruling government in particular. Progressive Judaism encourages Jews to live where they choose, with the knowledge that the more Jews who espouse progressive values who live in Israel, the more influence progressive Judaism has on the character of the state. Wherever we live, we work to deepen the knowledge, dialogue, and relationship between Jews in the diaspora and the State of Israel and its people through various modes: short-term or long-term stays of diaspora Jews in Israel, and short-term or long-term stays of Israelis in progressive communities around the world. Hebrew literacy for active engagement with Jewish texts, prayer, and contemporary literature and culture. Expressions about Israel in our progressive prayer books and community rituals, including Shabbat, Jewish holidays, and contemporary observances like Yom HaShoah and Yom HaTzmaut. Progressive Zionism works to uphold Israel as a Jewish and democratic state in which Western democratic principles serve as a stable foundation for Israel's existence, informed by discussions of Jewish values and texts. We view Israel's Declaration of Independence as a sacred text and believe that all bodies of government should lead the way for a state that is secure, creative, pragmatic, and committed to decency, dignity, welfare, and justice. And I want to also note these are among the resources that I turn to in studying the topic. And I want to give a special thanks to Rabbi Sergio Bergman, Rabbi Larry Englander, and Rabbi Dr. Michael Marmer for their very helpful insights in putting this all together.